Hello, I'm Pastor Rick, and welcome to our podcast. I hope that the message that you're about to hear will bless and encourage you today. This is kind of a special Sunday. It's a Sunday that's been in the works for several months. Jack and Mary Spoerner served as our children's ministry directors for 6.5 years. Jack was on staff, and Mary was his number one volunteer. And she was an integral part of the children's ministry here. They were truly a ministry team, although Mary spent most of her employment at McDonald's. Ran a drive-through, at least most of the time, and so if you ever went the 3rd Street, 2nd Street McDonald's, drove through in the morning, it's very possible Mary served you. But they were truly a ministry team here. Well, Jack tendered his resignation. June 4th was his last day, and they relocated to the Dayton area. But what was supposed to be a wonderful time in their lives turned into a significant trial. About 2 months before they stepped down and moved, Mary's health unexpectedly and rapidly deteriorated. She went from healthy and vital to literally clinging to life. They still relocated in early June, but Mary was in need of heart surgery, and it was critical that she get it soon. They have returned to CFA this morning to tell their story and the story of God's grace, mercy, and favor on them. That's the introduction. Before they come on stage and we spend some time hearing their story, we wanted to set the tone. Would you give attention to the screen as we play this very special song?
You're the same God today and the same God tomorrow. Help me see the victory you already see. Let my faith be today what it will be tomorrow, when I've seen the victory you already see. Exceeding abundant.
That's a very special song to you guys, is it not? I can already sense the emotion on your face. Jack, just tell us about that song. Remember, you got to hold the mic close for us to hear you.
You know, I got it through. I was listening to a gentleman on YouTube, one of the YouTube people I listen to, and he said, this is the best worship album ever, so I bought it, and I started listening to it. I'm not sure I'm on.
Oh, that may be. Try that.
I was going to ask you if I needed to turn it on.
I thought it was.
I just assumed they would turn it on up there. So.
Thank you for yelling back there.
Yes.
Because the people at home
Yeah, I
were
was like,
doing the same thing.
anyway.
They're going, we can't hear him.
Anyway, that song got me through. I purchased the MP, I downloaded it and listened to it in my car, and I started listening to it before Mary even, well, she was sick, but we didn't know how sick. And I remember driving to the hospital in Indianapolis, and I just had that blaring. I just kind of was on repeat because I knew I needed a miracle. And then, you know, I quit driving because I started living in the hospital with her, because I got a text message from her one night at like 4 in.the morning saying, I need you here. Mm-hmm. And I didn't leave her side after that.
Well, I wanted to
Sorry.
I wanted to address the song, but okay, I kind of gave a background for how long you were here and the ministry that you did, but before we get into the story, which is quite a story, some of you have heard bits and pieces. I've heard bits and pieces. I think I'll probably hear some things I didn't hear today. How's retirement going? It's been,
What's retirement? I had all these wonderful plans. Some of you out here know. I was like, Jack's starting a YouTube channel, and Jack and Mary are going to do this, and Jack and Mary aren't going to do any of that. I've just taken all those plans and thrown them out the window.
hey,
And
all right.
I'm allowing, both of us are like, God, what do you want to do? Because you cannot come face to face with the awesome power of God like we did and see the miracle that we saw and not be changed.
All right. Okay, well, July 19th, do I have the right date?
Yes.
That's the date of surgery. Okay. That's just been a little over 2 months ago, Mary.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it has.
You underwent heart surgery in Indianapolis. So first of all, give a bit of the backstory of taking ill, what happened, what you thought. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, in January, I started getting sick, and I thought maybe it was COVID or something like that. But then it started to get a little bit better. I was having coughing and, kind of some symptoms and everything. And then I started losing some energy, and I thought I was doing better, and then it got worse again. So in April, I went to the doctor, and she did some tests, and she said, I think you have a secondary infection. So she gave me a Z-Pack. The Z-Pack made me extremely sick. And so I was unable to eat. I lost my taste buds and everything. My stomach was upset a lot. So I just figured that was what was going on. Well, it wasn't. So, so then we got to June, and the first week of June, and I just said, he was trying to find another doctor and everything, and we couldn't find anybody. And I said, take me to the emergency room. So this was 2 days after he had retired. So we went to the emergency room, and that's where they told me they thought that I'd had a blood clot in my right lung, which the surgeon said he doubts that. But my mitral valve had exploded. And so it was just hanging there, not pumping, pushing the blood.
For those of us who haven't heard all the medical terms that you have over the past several months, what does that mean? What's this kind of a valve? You said
mitral valve?
Mitral valve.
Yeah.
What does it do? And when it explodes, what does that mean?
Okay, well, it's supposed to...
Want me to do that?
Yeah, you do the...
Okay.
Yeah.
She was, a lot of the stuff I'd go, did you know this was going on? And she goes, I don't know, I was sick laying in bed. I didn't hear all the stuff. I was just trying to survive. So the mitral valve is on the right side of the heart. And when the heart pumps, it's pumping the oxygen in the blood through that so that it goes through the whole body. Well, the mitral valve shuts because it's coming up this way, and gravity is going to push the blood back down. Well, the mitral valve shuts, so the blood can't go back down, and then it goes through the body. Well, her mitral valve exploded, and it was shredded. And so I actually got to see the ultrasound of it, and I was not a very good bedside patient because I just said, "Oh my word, that's a disaster," because you could see it. You could see it flopping around. It wasn't like doing anything.
Oh, so you were actually seeing this like live?
Oh yeah, I got
Yeah,
to
he
see
saw it.
this.
I didn't
and,
wanna look.
and she didn't look, and she didn't see it. So I'm seeing this thing flop around, and I'm like, "That's a disaster." And it's supposed to close, so it doesn't go back. Yeah, you're shaking your head there. Yeah, it's supposed to close, and it doesn't. So what was happening is, and they never explained to me why, but when the blood goes back down into the heart, for some reason it breaks up. It's like it has a war going on, and it breaks up and becomes a liquid that isn't a fluid that isn't blood, and then that fluid is absorbed into the body, and it goes to her feet, her ankles, her stomach, and fills up in her lungs, which is why she was not in good shape.
Okay, so how long were you sick? And then, Mary, at the last, you actually relocated to Ohio, right?
Yes.
You got the diagnosis here. You still made that move.
Yeah.
And then you ended up in the hospital in Indianapolis for how long before surgery?
Well, first it was the Miami Valley Hospital in Dayton, and then
That's in
we
Ohio,
did 3
correct?
hospitals.
That's the
yeah.
Dayton area, okay.
And then the Indianapolis hospital was like 2 weeks.
So you were 2 weeks in the Indianapolis
Yeah, because
hospital.
they said we kept going to the emergency room, and the surgeon said the next time you go, just come to Indianapolis because you can't. You just keep going back and forth to the emergency room.
She couldn't live outside of the hospital. If they would let her go,
Okay.
within 48 hours, she had to go back to the hospital because
lungs
she couldn't breathe.
were
So she was incapable of living outside of the hospital without all their stuff.
Okay, this one's for you, Jack, this question. Okay. Over this period of time, and this is some of the information that I have because I watched you, because some of it you still spent here and some of it, you started to watch your wife decline, significantly decline. Tell me what was going through your heart, what was going through your mind.
Okay. Going to be brief because this answer could be really long. Because we went through, it was a lot. I don't know why, other than the fact that it was the Spirit of God. He told me she was dying. And doctors continually kept telling us sooner rather than later for the surgery. And we're baffled, right? Both of us are baffled why we can't get a surgeon. Everyone's telling us sooner rather than later, and the Spirit of God is telling me she's dying. And we got an appointment for August 15th in the Dayton area, and I was like, she's not going to live till August 15th. I just knew that.
And that was verified when you finally got the
yeah.
surgery, right?
Well,
so
yeah.
she wouldn't have made it. If the surgery didn't take place in July, if it was held to August, the odds of her surviving that
right,
long,
where she wasn't going to make it.
she wouldn't have. Okay, go ahead.
She wasn't going to make it.
And that was just a cardiologist. That wasn't a surgeon.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the surgeon later. He was Mr. Happy Sunshine. He was just speaking the facts of what he saw. What question am I answering?
You were just saying, how were you feeling as
How
you
were you
watched
feeling? Oh, okay.
Mary decline?
I was watching my wife die. And I knew I had to do something. So I made phone calls, and I was persistent, and I was her advocate. And God opened a door, named Dawn, at Columbus, who was the PA for the doctor who was supposed to do her surgery in Columbus. Little story there. We're sitting down talking to her the day we were released here in Columbus, and she goes, well, I'm not going to mention the doctor's name. Well, he doesn't do a lot of mitral valves. And Mary and I are sitting there going, well, that's a vote of confidence. And it turns out I called their office, and Dawn answered the phone. And she goes, we were just talking about you and Mary. Like, you're just talking about Mary and I because it was a God thing. And the doctor said he's not going to do the surgery and I hear you're having trouble getting the surgery scheduled in Dayton. Not trouble, it was impossible. She goes, let me make some phone calls to the office in Dayton, see what I could do. And being the patient man that I am, I waited till Monday, and this was Friday, and called her. Well, my wife is dying, and I know this is serious. And doctors take forever to get appointments. So I called her on Monday and said, you said there was a doctor in Indianapolis, a surgeon? She goes, yeah. I said, contact them. And that evening, we had an appointment 3 days later.
Yeah.
What a miracle.
And the condition kept deteriorating. You kept getting weaker. You were in the emergency room. They were treating you. You're in and out of the hospital. Okay. In July, you ended up in Indianapolis. And then, Jack, very quickly, you ended up in Indianapolis, basically living at the hospital, correct? Okay. We're now getting towards surgery. I mean, I think we all kind of have a grasp of the seriousness. Okay. You met with the surgeon. Mary, tell us your recollection of that meeting, and then Jack, your recollection. So, Mary?
Okay, well, he told us that they were trying to get the surgery done on the 12th of July. Well, that didn't work. They couldn't find a room for that. So they told us the 19th. We're like, okay, great, we'll take the 19th. He had looked at all of the images and everything, and he said it's like a 2% survival rate, or I'm saying it wrong. 2% chance of dying. Okay. So, okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. Oh, that was in June. Okay. And then when we met with him again in the hospital the week before the surgery, and he upped it to 10%. And then, am I ahead of myself?
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
And then in the day before surgery, he came in and he said to me, I can do my repairs, and it ended up I needed a tricuspid. I needed a ring around that to seal it off because it was leaking. Then the next, or he said to me, he said, I can do my part, but you're not going to make it. I don't think your heart is. I've never seen a heart so enlarged. And right away, the words that came out of my mouth were, I serve a God bigger than that. And he just basically, he asked, Jack said, so you're telling me my wife's going to die tomorrow? And he wouldn't say it. So he left the room, and his assistant, his PA, Olivia, she's a Christian. And so I said, can we pray? And we prayed, and she said, the same God that made your heart start when you were born can make your heart start up again.
Okay. Now, I want to make sure that I have this time frame. 2 weeks before the surgery, you're talking to a surgeon who says, yeah, risk factor, 2% of you not survive.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
1 week before the surgery, meet with the same surgeon. Okay. Now he's saying, it's looking worse, 10% survival.
Yeah.
Just only 10% chance you'll die.
Yeah.
90% chance you're going to survive. Okay, now you go about 6 more days to the day of surgery or the day before surgery, and this same surgeon who said 1% chance, 2% chance of dying, 10% chance of dying, now says,
You're going
you're not going to make this.
He goes, I can do my repairs. Or they didn't know at that point, repair or replace, which by the grace of God became repairs. He actually, because replacement's worse.
Okay, now was this an open heart procedure?
I had robotic.
They call it open heart, even though they didn't open her.
Okay, now Jack, okay, you're hearing this stuff and this surgeon's evaluation. What were you feeling? What were you thinking? What were you hearing?
Same. Okay. I'm Mr. Analytical, a degree in mathematics. I'm watching this. What happened from the time we were in the hospital in Indianapolis to the day before her surgery, it was getting so bad that they couldn't keep her breathing. They were having, they couldn't keep the fluid out of her lungs. We had a night 3 days or so before the surgery where It was a nightmare. We were up all night, and Mary was up sitting in had her chair bed up, and she couldn't breathe. She could not breathe. We're in the hospital getting special care so that she can breathe, because she can't live outside the hospital, and she couldn't breathe. It was a horrible night. And they moved her to the PCU, which is the pulmonary care unit, to give her special attention there. And so what the surgeon was seeing was a rapid decline of her heart's ability to move the oxygen throughout her body. It was declining rapidly, and that's when we found out her mitral valve was shredded. And I guess over time, because it was shredded when it exploded, that it gradually was getting worse and worse and worse, and was getting to a place that could not keep any of the blood from going back down into the heart. So then they put her on special medicine to help the heart pump, and I guess you can't live on this medicine. It's just temporary. So she was on that. So that from the surgeon's point of view, I have a heart that's bigger than any heart I've ever seen. I have a woman here who, without all these drugs and these things going on, we can't keep the liquid out of her lungs. I'm gonna do my part, but I can't see where this tired, worn, beat up heart is gonna start again.
Now, that's a statement, and I want you to go there. I don't know if you picked it up, but the surgeon says, I can go in and do the surgery, but what's this about the heart starting again? Explain what took place before and what they needed to do.
The anesthesiologist, I don't know how they did this. Mary had so many holes in her after the surgery. We thought it was just 4, and there was like holes everywhere, and she hurt everywhere, and we found out subsequent that actually what she had is more painful than having the chest cracked open, but her recovery so much faster. So her first 2-3 weeks after her surgery, it was brutal. No, it wasn't. We'll get to that. Yeah. What question am I answering again?
What the heart? What was going on? I mean, how are they going to restart?
Oh, the starting. Okay, so the anesthesiologist, what they do is they shoot something into the heart to make the heart stop beating, and then they go through a heart-lung machine to keep Mary alive.
All right. So what happens is, she is now actually on a machine.
Yes.
The machine is circulating her blood. The heart is not pumping her blood. Right. It's the machine pumping her blood, and I'm assuming also a machine is helping her breathe.
I wasn't there.
Okay, that's true. Probably.
I'm assuming
probably
so.
a good thing you weren't
Kim
there.
could probably answer that question.
Okay, so all right, so that's all taking place, or that's what's going to take place when the doctor tells you this, and then he makes that statement and explain.
Well, you shut the heart down, and then, I do know this now, every 30 minutes, whatever the anesthesiologist gave her, it stopped the heart will start beating again. Well, you have a 6-hour surgery, you can't have the heart start beating. As he said pragmatically to me, Jack, I can't have a beating heart and fix it. I have to have it stopped. So, the heart, what he told us is the heart has to start on its own. When the medicine is taken away from Mary and it's no longer does she have it, no one can start the heart. Well, God can.
All right, so her heart is going to be stopped. This is the doctor's describing this to you. Her heart's going to be stopped. You're going to be kept alive on a machine while he repairs. Now, I just want to make sure I have the progression. So the medication that is keeping your heart not beating after the repair is made is going to be removed, but they're not going to shock the heart. They don't do anything. The heart has to start on its own. Yes. This surgeon told both of you pre-surgery, correct?
Yeah, but it won't start.
That
the heart won't start.
Yeah.
He didn't think your heart was going to start again. He's
Correct.
He's going to go through this whole procedure,
Yeah.
but he doesn't think your heart's going to start again. Mary, you first. What went through your mind? How did you feel? What was going on?
I never had any fear, and I know it was God. There was no fear. There was no negativity. I refused for him to say goodbye to me. I told him, I said, do not tell our children. I said,
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, let's stop. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I have children.
Mm-hmm.
I have children that I had cataracts removed and didn't know about it, and we got chewed out.
oh, well, they were not, when they found out, they weren't happy.
Well,
but
I was just going to say, but you actually chose not to tell them.
I did not. In
Why?
my spirit, I felt like God was, he just came on me the whole time. From the time that the surgeon told me that to the time that I went into surgery, I had complete peace. There was nothing, no fear, nothing. And so he was like, well, I'm like, no, God has got this. He's going to take care of it.
Have you ever sensed something like that before? I mean, you've got basically a death diagnosis.
Yeah.
Your heart's not restarting. And at some point, I'm imagining all these doctor shows and stuff. Somebody's got to call it, and they're going to give a time of death. That's kind of the scenario that you're walking into. But you don't have
No.
anxiety.
No, not a bit.
Wow.
All the way through to the next day when they were wheeling me, and I knew I was going to come out.
Wow. Now, Jack, was that your... Did she not lay hands on you and pass this on?
I wish she had.
Tell us what you were feeling, Jack, during that evening and then the next day during surgery.
Well, the evening kept us busy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We had all kinds of stuff to do, special shower to take and this and that to do, and so we were up all night. That was my modus operandi during this, was up all night. I didn't know I could go without sleep for so long. What I was feeling was desperation. Just desperation, and I looked at her and I said, I've got to say goodbye to you. You have been so special to me and so important in my life. And she goes, you're not saying goodbye to me because I'm not leaving. And then, boy, did I get in trouble with the kids. And we had a family powwow afterwards where Mary apologized to them for putting me through that. But she said, and they both were like, this is okay. She said, my faith would not allow me to even broach that or go there. And it was a wonderful time for me to sit and talk to my son for 2 hours. Well,
This is now after.
yeah,
This is after.
and he came. He was so angry. He came, and because I spilled the beans, I couldn't. I had talked to you. You had offered to come, and other people had offered to come, and I told them all no. And I did what I said I was going to do for 2.5 hours.
This is during the procedure.
Yeah, during the procedure, I was a rock. I was filled with the Spirit. And in fact, I found myself speaking in tongues out in the waiting room, out loud, and I'm like, I don't care. And I had the Bible, and I was praying Scripture, and I was praying life over Mary, and I was a warrior. And then I had to go to the bathroom, and I
Warriors
got up.
have to go to the bathroom.
Yes, I did. And I got up and started walking, and I started suddenly being filled with incredible doubt, just overwhelming doubt. And I went to the gift shop, and I found a little figurine that the name of it was Together, and I was like, I'm going to get that for her. And I was like, she's not going to live. Why? That doesn't matter. Then I went out in the car, and I was in the car for 2 hours, and King David would have been proud of me, because I was screaming at God. Anyone who went by that car probably heard this guy weeping and crying and gnashing his teeth and shaking his fist at God, and I was just beside myself, and I was like, God, I know someday I might have to be alone, or someday Mary have to be alone, but I said, not now. It's too early. I just retired. What are we going to do? And he said, go buy that gift. I just felt the Spirit say, go buy that gift. So I got out of the car, wiped my eyes off, and put my For some reason, the Psalms in the 80s are the ones where David's just crying out to God, and I'd been reading those. Good. You know what? I don't need to read these. I'm just going to cry out to you and yell at you. And I go in the gift shop, and I buy the gift, and I'm thinking, can I return this? And I have never in my life been so rebuked by God, ever. I felt like his spirit was just on me going, how dare you? How dare you doubt me? How dare you? I told you to buy this. How dare you? I'm sorry. And then the kids, this was like one of the greatest moments of my life, talking to the kids because I've let it slip out, and my son is so angry with me. I didn't want to go there. I just hang up because I was like, I'm not going to listen to this. I can't. And so I'm talking to my daughter, and the guy comes up and goes, second. I put the phone down. He goes, surgery's over. Everything went as planned. I was like, Kimberly, I think she's alive. So I go, I'm going to call you back. So I'm sitting there, and I go, wait a minute. Everything went by whose plans? So I go up to the guy, he's sitting there, and I go, I have a really strange question. He goes, what? I go, can you call back there and find out whose plans it went by? He goes, what do you mean? I said, the surgeon told us she wasn't going to live. So if the surgeon's saying everything went as planned, she's dead. He called back and goes, I don't know. He says he wants to talk with you. So they didn't tell him. So a few minutes later, he comes up to me and goes, the surgeon doesn't want a room. You're good.
Oh. Wow. This was not one of the questions that I pre-submitted to you.
Can't
But I told
prepare
you
for
we were
this
going to go
one.
off script. You went from a warrior all the way down, screaming, yelling at God, all those things.
It was very quiet, too, because I'm a very relaxed person.
Yeah, I could see that, yes, very much. But here's the thing, because I think there's a lot of times we don't know how to appropriately, or what is appropriate in expressing emotion to God. But you went through a whole bunch of stuff. Was that appropriate to express to God?
He loves me. I love King David. Never met King David. I can't wait to meet King David because I feel like I kind of have a little King David in me. And the Psalms of terror is not the right word, but his Psalms of distress.
Yes.
I have always so related to. And God and I have a very volatile relationship on my end, not on his. He's always accepted me the way I am depraved and sinful, and I have screamed at him a lot, and he's a whole lot bigger and doesn't really bother him when I scream at him. He just kind of goes, you'll get over it.
And I really appreciate you sharing that. And as I close this time down, I want to talk a little bit more about that. But I appreciate you letting us into the highs and the lows. Of course, now you're out of it. He's going through all of this by himself, and
Yeah.
He didn't want anybody with them, several people, and it probably was best that maybe there wasn't anybody around, because you probably wouldn't have had quite the expression, Jack, if there were people around.
Oh, I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so having that freedom. So you came out of the surgery, and tell us a little bit about that, and then tell us about your recovery.
Well, I don't really remember coming out of the surgery too much. I was told when I did wake up, my husband, Jack came in, and
husband? Who was he?
and also he said, I have a surprise for you, and our son had come, and so that was really awesome. I didn't spend a whole lot of time with him because I was pretty out of it.
Okay.
But the surgeon had said, if I survived, he said I would have
Okay,
a...
let's go back.
Okay.
The surgeon said, if you survive,
Yeah.
not when this is over.
Yeah.
If you survive.
If.
Okay, so even at that point, there's the if that
Yeah.
we were talking about. Okay, so if you survive what?
Well, then I would have a very brutal recovery, and I have not had that at all. Our God is awesome. I have been able to, I take 2-3 mile walks. I ride my bike up to 20 miles. You know, I do all kinds of things, and it's only been a little over 2 months. And he had told me it would be a long time before.
And the damage that seemed to have been the heart. He said he's never seen a heart. What did you?
So
It's large.
So enlarged.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, and I want to say that you said God had told you that we have many years together.
Left together.
Left
Of course,
together.
I didn't believe him.
Yeah, it's very difficult when, I mean, even though God tells you those things, you know. And the other thing is just, I mean, there's so many things that happened. There were nurses that were amazing, that prayed. You know, we just had so many people, you know, praying for us, and he'd get on Facebook and he'd read to me some of the messages and everything. And Psalm 23 became a real, I was reading a book about it and then before this, and that just became a really awesome psalm. I would say it every night before I went to bed. Just in my head, I would just go over it.
I didn't know this about Psalm 23. I was in the room with her, and I didn't know what was going on with Psalm 23. She never said anything to me about it. But after the surgery, I remember breaking down and thinking, I just watched Psalm 23 come alive. It's like everything she did was just solid rock Psalm 23, unmovable.
And we also had two things. The minute that the surgeon said I wouldn't make it, he said God told him to pray for his salvation. So we've been praying for his salvation. And the other thing was that God had laid on your heart, two things. God had laid on Jack's heart to, and I have trouble, the anesthetic kind of messes me up.
Anesthesia brain?
But the two things, I'm trying to remember.
Facebook? And the healing day?
My healing day.
Yeah, well, people have told me that anyone who followed on Facebook, I started posting. God told me to start posting every day, and that went on for like 6 weeks of me posting every day about Mary's condition. And one guy at the church we're going to now said, "Oh, wait a minute! They would pray on Sunday mornings for us, and he'd go, wait a minute, it just changed. Jack posted another update, and with Jack's update, you never know, it might be completely different than the last update." Because that's kind of what we were going through, constant change. But I had people tell me that calling it her healing day was an act of faith that ministered to them. And
So
I confess it was not an act of faith.
what you were calling the surgery day?
July 19th.
July 19th was healing day, and we
My
started
healing
doing a
day.
countdown to healing day.
Okay.
This is why I called it healing day. Because no matter what happened, she was healed.
Oh.
And it wasn't my incredible faith that I knew she was going to survive. It was, in fact, I jokingly told her, I said, well, you totally messed this up. I mean, you could have been knocked out and woke up at Jesus' feet, and now you got to put up with me more. I mean,
Oh, and the other thing was God impressed upon him to pray for surprises for the surgeon. And the surprises they thought they were going to have to replace both valves, the tricuspid and the mitral valve. And they didn't have to do either. He repaired both. So that was
and
really
the
awesome.
cardiologist said, Max.
Oh, yes,
It was
the day
so
after
awesome. So many
surgery.
awesome people we met. Max came into her room and said they got a stopwatch. Every 30 minutes they had to So I did not know this. The doctor, out of a half an hour, only operated for 20 minutes. And then he had to pull the robot out, and the anesthesiologist took over to get the heart stopped again. So I guess that takes 10 minutes. I don't know. I'm not in there. I don't know what's going on. So 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off. And I guess he's got a stopwatch or something. Is that what he's doing? I don't know what he's doing. I'm not there, but he said, I'm sitting there, and I just felt
like the room probably shook. Because right when Mary's heart was supposed to start beating, boom, it started beating.
Okay, wind some things down here. June 25th was our celebration day to say goodbye to you guys after 6.5 years of ministry. I know you had wanted to come back, but physically it was not advisable. But Jack came back for that, and we celebrated. But you have told me that there's some things that you want to tell the church, and this is your opportunity. Here we are, in person and online.
All right. Well, I just wanted to thank all of you for your prayers and support. And I also wanted to say thank you for the 6.5 years of your generosity and your prayers. And thank you financially. Like when Jack came here, people blessed us with some money, and that was used for his traveling and his food and everything. We thank you so much. And thank you to the people that have served downstairs. Our children's ministry has been awesome because of you. And you have stepped in many times when we were short-handed, we needed help. You stepped in with COVID and everything. We have just been so blessed to be a part of this congregation, and we thank you so much.
Amen. Amen. If the team can make their way back to the platform, and as they are, Jack, you had said one thing. This will be our last question. You told me that this experience has changed both you and Mary in some significant ways. Now, we have to be brief. Can you briefly tell us one of these ways that this experience has changed you?
Actually, I can't answer that yet. I mean, we are changed.
Yeah.
You do not come face to face with the power. I mean, I'm a Christian. I encountered Jesus when I became a Christian. I've never encountered Jesus like this before. It like, my wife is supposed to be dead. And you know what? It is a big deal, because this is a man who people come from all over the country to have this surgery done, because he is so good at it and so well renowned. He's seen so many examples. He wasn't lightly saying, I don't think her heart's going to start again. He was saying it from experience. I've seen this. Her heart's not going to start again. It's not like this is what he saw. And God started her heart again.
She's alive. She's next to me. The thing that I said, I put on Facebook the day after I woke up, and I said, one of the happiest days of my life was waking up next to her in our bed. After all we've been through, and she's back home. But God doesn't do that because he wants us to have a happy life. I mean, we have had a happy life and a great marriage. He's did that because he's got a purpose, and we're trying to figure out what that purpose is now. Why is she still here when there are people that pray and pray for babies and they die? But she's still here. He needs to get the glory for what he did.
Yep, he sure does. Would you give it up for Jack and Mary? Could you get rid of those two for me, please? Thank you. Not going to talk long. I just want to thank you. So much I could say, and so little time. I want to talk to you about emotion, fear, anxiety, faith, all of those things. God is not afraid of your emotion. King David said some incredible things positively when he wrote his Psalms, but he also said some things where he questioned God, cried out to God. It was awful. But he said it in full assurance of safety that God wasn't going to strike him dead. I don't know if you grew up like I grew up. I grew up in a home where when my mother got angry about something, and sometimes she would speak out against God, I actually thought God was going to hit her with a lightning bolt. I didn't know that he could handle our emotion. I was having a small counseling session with someone who was going through some grief. And this individual, not part of our church, grew up in a tradition where she was not allowed to be angry at God. In fact, she really felt that it was offensive. It was going to somehow be a great sin to be angry with God. But she was, because of what she was walking through. And as we were talking, I said, it's okay. It's okay. I don't know what you're going through. If you're angry, express it to God. He can handle it. If you're angry and confused, let the emotions out. Better him than your spouse. Better him than your children. Better him than your parents. Let it out. He can handle it. And most of the time after David let it out and it got out of his heart and his system, he usually ended, and I still will follow you. Whatever you're walking through may be a roller coaster journey. As much as I like roller coasters at theme parks, I don't like the roller coasters of life. Where this week you're here, a month and a half later you're here, or sometimes something happens so quickly that at noon you're here, and at 3 p.m. you're here. That's life. But you don't walk through life alone. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Now, David didn't make that statement just, I will fear no evil because everything's right. He said, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. That's how you don't fear evil. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. I don't know what you're walking through this morning, but we're going to be opening the front here momentarily for prayer. For those of you online, please call on Monday if you desire prayer. You won't have opportunity to be prayed for here. And I am going to ask, as this prayer time opens, Jack and Mary are going to offer prayers over you, as well as some of our other prayer team members. They're going to pray for you. God loves you. God loves you. Jesus loves you. If you have not opened your heart to him, he loves you. He wants to call you and bring you close. Just take stepping out in faith and saying, Jesus, I need you. If you're able, would you stand? Lord, we've heard a story of anxiety, illness, someone on the verge of death, but we've also heard a story of your goodness, your grace, your power. Even though surgery was necessary, there were miracles involved in what took place in that surgery. Lord, Jack said that he realized that the surgeon wasn't being just flippant when he told them that. He had the experience of seeing this happen before. That truly in his mind, Lord, Mary's heart was not going to stop. But for you, but God. And Lord, her heart started again. Father, that sign on the screen right now, God, you're up to something. You are up to something. Be here today in power. There are people that need a touch. Oh, Father, minister to hearts, minister to bodies, minister to spirits and emotions this morning. We thank you for your goodness. We thank you for your goodness. Thanks for joining us for this message from Columbus First Assembly. If this message has blessed you in any way, would you share it on your social media feeds so that others can be blessed also? If you would like to join us for an in-person service and you're close to us, we are in Columbus, Indiana, then our services start at 10 o'clock on Sunday mornings, and our church is located on the corner of 10th and Iowa. Once again, thanks for joining us. Look forward to having you join us again soon.